Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a should you pull on Noctis and Lenna. So we're going to go ahead and talk about these banners. They're going to drop in a few days. And I think there's some very exciting things that you could pull for on these banners, right? Now, the first disclaimer I'm going to say is there's a very, very good chance that these banners might be changing. What they did on the last banner was they threw Luna, Freya, and Vaughn on them in the LD slots. So I think it's only been one banner, right? But I feel like there's a pretty good chance now that the precedent is they're going to put one BTFR character in an LD slot, but their BTFR won't be on the banner. So, and on the last banner, they did it on the character that was in the bottom slot. So my guess is they would take out Kais and they would take out Fran. But I don't know for sure. They could do whatever they want, right? I'm going to do this should you pull based on what is here. And just know that the LD characters in any capacity could be changing here, right? So the first thing I'm just going to talk about any notable spheres that you're looking for. I would say 8 is an incredible sphere to grab right now, especially if you got Kelger. His is a 20% attack up on evading. Now, evade spheres aren't commonly used. Like, there's not a ton of characters that can take advantage of it. But if you're someone that got Kelger, like, going in for an 8 EX isn't the worst idea to really buff your Kelger up. It's a really good sphere for Kelger. Probably the best one you can put on him. So I would say 8 is notable for that, but he's not a sphere you're going to need, like, a ton of copies of. Just for a few characters, right? Kais and Noctis, they're, like, launch spheres. So, like, they're decent. They do, like, attack ups and stuff, but they're, like, not a lot of characters can trigger them, right? So I wouldn't worry about chasing those. And then over here, Lenna's is a pretty good, like, solid, like, Brave Gain sphere, but it's not anything that's, like, crazy notable that you need. I would say Shadows is actually very good. It's a 10% attack on single target damage. So any character that's doing a lot of single target, Shadows is actually pretty good. And Fran's E-slot, I think, was just, like, kind of a standard debuff. It's not one that I use a lot, right? But what I did want to talk about is when we look at the actual banner characters, there are some notable calls here, right? And I would say on the Lenna side, Fran's call is really, really good. It's actually one of my favorite calls in the game. And what it does is it puts down the Viera's punishment debuff. And I feel like Fran maybe is a call that doesn't get enough attention for like how good it is. Because Viera's punishment is one debuff that packs literally like 6 debuffs in it, including a Brave damage taken up and an HP damage taken up, which are like 2 really premium debuffs to put on an enemy. And you're getting that all packed into one debuff. So not only are you getting a lot of good stuff with it, but it's only taking up 1 debuff slot, right? So I really, really like Fran's call. It's very, very good. Now, in terms of other calls, I don't think anything really jumps out to me as like, oh my god, that's like a crazy call that you need to have here, right? So, I mean, I think some people try to use Kai's call for launching, but like Reigns is clearly like way better. So, yeah, I wouldn't really worry about any calls on these banners other than Fran. I think Fran's call is very good, right? So let's go ahead and talk about like the banner themselves, right? And the characters. So we're going to assume, so if Kais and 8 are here, Kais isn't really worth getting at all right now. Now, he does get a really nice upgrade in JP. So when he does get his FRBT, Kais is actually, like, super good. But there's really no point in chasing him now, right? 8, on the other hand, is very good because he's an evade tank, right? So he's basically like a mini version of Kelger, just an LD-only much weaker version of it. But he is a character that has a ton of longevity, and 8 is a character that can solo fights, believe it or not. I know in today's age it's going to be super monotonous and boring because the enemies have so much HP, but he is a good like character you can use to help flesh out a team, maybe for lockout content, because his evade tanking doesn't really age. It's very good, but he's not going to have an FR, he's not going to have a BT. I don't think you need to chase 8, right? But like I said, his sphere's good for Kelger. I would only get it, though, if you're going to pull for Noctis and you get him on the side. Noctis, if you're not familiar, he's definitely, like, solid, but I feel like, I don't know, man, he's a character where his damage just has fallen off, but he does have some really good, like, utility type things. He's got launching. His Steel Pirouette LD is kind of the really cool thing about him, where it pretty much gives your party members, like, this warp step buff, where whatever enemy they target, their next turn will be in front of that enemy. So if you like always target the front enemy, your characters just stay in front and it doesn't take up a turn count. So like Noctis is good for like really turn count efficient runs. The problem is like today's meta, like turn count really isn't an issue. Back when he originally was coming around, like, you know, Lufenia plus days, and there was like some really, really hard fights. Turn count was actually really tough in a lot of fights, and especially when we had like really long grind your fights, which is kind of like this old school how DFFOO used to be. Noctis used to be really good for that, but like today's game, and people have kind of pointed it out, right? When we talked about this this new Shinryu thing coming out in JP, and people are excited for it because today's game it's kind of monotonous, right? It's like you don't really need to worry about steal pirouette. You don't really need to worry about turn efficiency. You're just ramping and going into a big force and blowing them up in like 10 turns or less anyways, right? So, Noctis just isn't like super important. And he does have off turn, right? The thing with Noctis is, his off turn will like steal breaks and then he can like steal turns and it like messes up force times and stuff. He's kind of just like, he's like a wonky off turn. Because I've tried using him. I got really excited from when he got his like FR and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to use Noctis. I remember I chased his FR really hard. And then anytime I used him, he just kind of like messed up my team comps. And there's so many like better off turn characters than Noctis. With, our boy Kelger being right there, being one of them, Vice. Like these characters just feel so much better. So yeah, I feel like this banner right here is a very easy skip. Because if you're a new player, I don't feel like this is worth investing in. And if you're a veteran player, most veterans have Noctis because he's very hype. He's been very good, very top tier at different points in the game's history. And he's a fan favorite. So most players have already gone in on Noctis anyways. So for the players that haven't, I really don't see the reason to go in here, right? Now, we've got the Lenna side. Now, Lenna is going to be a very different story. I would say Fran and Shadow, though, like, in terms of characters in the party, not worth it at all, right? Shadow's cool. Like, I think Shadow's going to be really fun someday when he does get his BTFR, because he has this really cool evade counter, and he steals turns, and he's got, like, follow-ups with his dog. Like, it's super awesome. His kit is really fun. He's just really, really weak right now, right? So, Shadow, don't worry about him. Fran, like I said, her LD call is spectacular, but Fran in the party is kind of a dud, right? She doesn't output a lot of damage. She has this unique ranged, weakness damage or whatever, but, she puts out ranged Imperial on enemies, which is pretty rare, but not really a big deal, right? Like, a bajillion characters can just make elemental weakness damage. Edgar can make any weapon type weakness damage, so Fran, not really worth anything chasing other than that LD. But Lenna, on the other hand, is pretty spicy. Lenna is actually one of my top picks this month. Her and Kelger are like right there. And I think Lenna is going to be spectacular for a few reasons. She's going to have a really good FR Echo that's going to do very, very well. I believe hers is going to be an instant turn Echo, so you can kind of do like airless shenanigans. I think she's got a very easy to meet force condition, which is going to be really nice as well. Her BT effect is really good because it has really good standard BT buffs on it. But then it has a couple of unique things in it. And one, it gives her powerful follow-ups. So very similar to Rosa. Like she's going to be dipping in like follow-ups on her attacks to give her more damage. But the thing that I'm really excited to see with Lenna is I think her damage could get really nutty if you set up your teams correctly. And if you've been doing crystal rooms. Because one of her gimmicks is that her LD. So she has two things. She has a special HP plus and her LD that their damage is directly scaled on the party's current HP. Okay. So what happens is the LD attack will do that, and then the LD gives her some skill uses of another attack that also does it. So she can be pumping out a bunch of these attacks that scale off of party HP. The way this gets really busted is one of her BT effects makes it so that your party can be 40% more HP over their cap. So you're getting a 40% HP buff there. And if you combo her with a bunch of characters that have max crystal room stats, the HP amounts are insane, and I've shown you guys this on my channel before, but like a standard character right now might have like 16,000 HP, and my red crystal room characters have like 30 to 40,000 HP, like insane HP pools. So if you set up a full party of insane HP pools, you have this BT effect up giving you like 40% more HP overhealing. She has other things in her kit that give you HP overhealing. You could combo with other characters that give it as well. I mean, the amount of HP like that this team could have is going to be crazy. So I'm really curious to see what that damage looks like. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched JP footage of her, but in my head and on paper, it sounds like she's going to be able to do crazy damage with it. But maybe it's not translating as well as I think it's going to. So we'll wait for the character guide to really judge her damage. But what I'm going to say is this. Even if her damage isn't the craziest, it doesn't matter. You want her for the support. Because beyond all the stuff I've told you, she's doing normal support things, right? She's battering, she's healing, and she has Windrake's Ward, which is one of the best things about her, which is debuff evasion. The one, like, slight nitpick I would have with Lenna, like, right, her one flaw is she doesn't force charge, which is kind of a big flaw, right? But, my plan is I'm going to combo her with a character like Aerith, and Aerith will cover that for me, right? So if you whether it be through a friend unit or another unit on the team, you can cover the force charging, or just run her in comps where maybe you don't have to force charge. You can just deal with the force conditions, ramp up normally, and still do well. I think Lenna is an excellent support unit. I would highly recommend her, especially to newer players that are just building out fresh teams. What I've been advising new players is start with Kelger and Lenna. That's going to be a great start. And then you can kind of pick and choose what you want that third character to be. But I think she's going to be really good. I'm really excited for her. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you're going to pull for Lenna. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.